Hello again, this is Jonathan from Advanced Business. I am going to help you today with a very common problem that we get a lot of calls about, and that is I can't print. Now there can be many reasons for this, but 90% of the time there's nothing wrong with the actual printer or copier. It's typically a problem with the network or with the computer itself. So I'm going to walk you through running a couple of simple tests today just to determine where the problem can be found and maybe a few fixes as well. So first, we're going to assume that you already have the print driver installed, everything was fine, and then all of a sudden you can no longer print. The first question would be, has there been any network changes? So any updates to your computer, updates to routers, or changes in routers, or your internet service provider has been changed. Any of those things can cause you to stop printing. But first, we're going to go to our printer. So if you go into your search bar and you start typing in printers, you'll see printers and scanners, and we're going to click on that. So find the printer that you would normally print to. Maybe it says offline or error. But you want to find the one that you used to print to and is no longer working. Now, I have a lot of them installed just for testing purposes. So I'm going to pick maybe our office printer right here. And you're going to click on it and click Manage. Now, depending on your operating system, sometimes it looks slightly different. And in that case, you want to just right-click on the printer and say Printing Properties or Printer Properties, and click on that. In this case, it's in just a little bit different place, but same place is where we want to end up, is Printer Properties. And we're going to click on the Ports tab. And so if we expand this out, this is going to show us the IP address that we had been using to point to our printer. So in this case, it's 10.1.10.103. So the first step I would recommend would be just to leave this open, and you want to remember that number, or just keep the window open if you can. And we're going to go back to our search bar, and we're going to type in CMD, or shortcut for Command Prompt, and press Enter. And so the first thing we want to do is type in ipconfig and press Enter, just like so. And so it's going to show us a lot of information. Now, if you have your Ethernet wire plugged in, it's going to show you information for that. If you're also connected to the LAN, to a wireless LAN rather, it will show you kind of similar information. But you want them to be pretty much the same. So you'll see here, if we look down here, we see our IP address is 10.1.10.188, and our subnet mask below that is 255.255.255. And so what that tells us is that we are on the correct subnet as what we want to be in order to print. Because when our subnet is 255.255.255.0, that tells us that this last digit, or last set of digits, is the actual ID of the machine. And so if the first three are the same and that last one is different, that gives us a pretty rough idea that we're probably configured properly on the network, which is good. Now, if you were to run this command and this number is, let's say, 192.168.1.105, for instance, that's totally different than what we have here prior. So that means there has definitely been some network changes. But let's assume that we have the correct information. That looks good. That looks good. They should be very similar as we have here. We're going to type in another command, which is the ping command, P-I-N-G space, and then we're going to type in the IP address of the copier right here that we had it pointed at before. So in this case, it would be 10.1.10.103, and press Enter. So this is a good sign. We see that it's replying back from that IP address, and so that's telling us that we have an active connection on the network to that IP address. So that's a good sign. That means that we have everything connected and it should be working properly. So if your machine, if your PC is still saying that you are offline or the printer is offline, sometimes the communication that Windows is using can be blocked on the network. And so what you can do is highlight the port that's already checked and click Configure Port. And we're going to uncheck SNMP status and click OK. And then we're also going to uncheck Enable Bidirectional Support and click Apply. And a lot of times once you do that, then all of a sudden it will start printing if that little piece is being blocked on your network. Another common problem that you might find is in the drivers. So if you click on the next tab over here, the Advanced tab, it's going to show you that you have this driver installed. And so it should be very similar to what's on the cover of the machine. And that tells you that you have the proper driver loaded. Now if it says something different, like let's say it says this, Microsoft Software Printer Driver, or Microsoft Default PCL driver, or something to that effect, that tells you that you're not using the actual driver from the manufacturer of Konica Minolta on the system. And so you really need to put the real driver on the system. So if you go to our website and you go to Need Support and then Computer, you will see we have all the instructions you need to download the driver and install it for your model of copier. But often this will also prevent you from printing if there was, let's say, a Windows update overnight or something to that effect that could affect your printing. One other little thing that we can also do for checking another common problem, which would be duplicate IP addresses. And what you can do for that is you can type in your same command as we typed before, ping space 10.1.10.103, and this time we're going to do a space and then a /t, just like so, and then we're going to hit enter. And so that's going to run that ping command, but it's going to run it continually. And so now what you can do is you can go and shut off the copier. And so if you shut off the copier, but yet you continue to get these reply froms, that IP address, that tells you that there's something else on your network with that same IP address. And if that's the case, you need to change either the IP address of the copier or the IP address of whatever other device is on the network that has the duplicate IP. So you may need to call your IT department in order to get that one resolved. When you're done, you can just press Control-C, and that will cancel that ping command and then close this window. That is probably some of the most basic issues that we run into when people say I can't print, but also some of the most common as well. So I hope that you find this video helpful. If you need any other assistance, please go to our website at abetco.com under Need Support, and you will find many other helpful links.